All right, let's get to our last discussion now. The Nigerian Senate has commenced the screening of the first batch of President Bola Tinubu's ministerial nominees. Out of the 28 ministers designate, 14 nominees have been screened and now awaiting the Senate's final verdict. National Assembly correspondent TVC News has more on this.
The Senate dissolved into the Committee of the Whole to consider President Tinubu's list of ministers designate. One by one, the special advisor to Mr. President on National Assembly matters led the nominees to the stand to convince the lawmakers that they qualify for the job. The nominees reeled out their educational and professional qualifications as well as their achievements so far in public service.
I schooled at WTC Primary School, Enugu, and Queen's School, Enugu, and then proceeded to Nnamdi Azikiwe University, Awka campus. I studied law. I went into business, education, especially real estate, but I got into humanitarian jobs, going to hospitals, government hospitals to pay for bills for indigent patients.
Graduated from the University of California, University in the United States, where I majored in international relations. I went back into private business before eventually being appointed as ambassador of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to Germany, where I am still serving.
Some nominees enjoy special privileges as former members of the National Assembly. They were asked to take a bow and go, while others were put on the hot seat.
Your Excellency, if given the opportunity and clear me, I want to assure the Assembly, this Senate, that I'm going to provide the synergy between both the executive and the legislature because of my experience.
Till 27th of May, while I was living 27th of May, Mr. Senate President, I was commissioning our flagging off project. This thing can be achieved if you are committed, if you have passion for the job. There are so many people who want to be minister, who want to be governor, for the sake that I was a governor, for the sake that I was a minister. But there are those who say, look, what do I want to offer? Am I committed to this job? And I thank Mr. President for nominating me. I believe, knowing how hungry Mr. President is to solving the problems of Nigeria, we have no choice but to give him that required support. And I can assure you, if I'm confirmed, in whatever capacity, Mr. President will not regret nominating me. Thank you.
14 nominees have been screened, 12 more to go. The Senate will send a report to the President confirming the appointment of the ministerial nominees. But so far, so good. The Senate is giving this activity special attention. TVC TVC News, Abuja.
All right, so joining us from our Abuja studio is a political analyst, a member of the APC and media consultant, Kassim Afegbua. It's nice to have you join us this morning, Kassim.
Thank you very much for having me. God bless you.
Great. Great. All right. Now, yesterday was a day that a lot of Nigerians stayed glued to their TV sets to watch the process that the National Assembly or the Senate said that we're going to be thorough in screening the ministerial nominees as sent to them by the president. And it was quite interesting with the passion Nigerians had yesterday. I wonder, when some of the nominees were reeling out what they have done, their pedigrees, who they are, who they were, and so on, what were your assessment of them yesterday? Some of the ones you've seen.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity of this discussion. I think the president knows exactly what his Renew Hope agenda is. He needs to also recruit men and women who can plug into that vision and agenda. And the quality of minds that he has put forward, is quite cheering. I watched all those nominees, the screening at the Senate. Before the president appoints you, he must have had interaction with you. He must have also understudy your CV and know your capacity in terms of how you'll be able to fit into his own agenda, Renew Hope agenda. And so I wasn't surprised at the delivery yesterday. I saw quite a number of persons. I saw impressive. I was impressed by the lady, the woman leader of the APC. It's a now former woman leader. Or a Wike, for example. What are you going to be asking Wike about? He's been a minister before. He's been a governor. What are you going to be asking him? So I think the point is, I would just plead that some of these persons should hit the ground running once they are given their different portfolios, because the country needs to move on right now. We need to confront our challenges head on. With the kind of distraction coming from the Niger Republic here, we need to look straight in the eyes of Nigerians and say this is where we are headed. And so I want to commend the president for coming up with these names. Even the man who they said had a problem with the Supreme Court verdict and was being banned for 10 years, he said he provided the evidence and supplied the judgment, the so-called judgment that barred him, that there wasn't anything like that and all that. And so the point of screening is actually for Nigerians to know more about these persons. But some of us who are in politics, we know them, we know their pedigree, we know their quality, we know the character of these persons. And so we are just looking forward to see the portfolio they will be given and how they will quickly, synchronize into a system that will provide services and deliver democratic dividends to Nigerians.
All right, let's put you on hold for just less than a minute. We'll be right back to continue. Let's go on a break. Right, you're watching TVC Breakfast, and on this segment, we're looking at the screening by the Senate of ministerial nominees as submitted by President Bola Tinubu last week. Just yesterday, the Senate commenced that process of screening some of the nominees, and they went, partway yesterday, and today they're expected to continue. And we have a media consultant and a member of the APC and a political analyst, Kassim Afegbua, joining us from Abuja, and is helping us to make sense of some of these issues, what Nigerians expect and what they should expect. And he has said that, the most important thing right now is to allocate portfolios and let the government begin its business. That's part of what he has said so far, Kemi.
Right. So Mr. Afegbua, you spoke earlier about, some high points, at Monday's screening for you. But, tell us what you feel were some of the low points that you would want addressed, when they reconvene in about a few hours' time from now. Because some Nigerians and the Senate had spoken to the fact that all these nominees would be sufficiently grilled, and we saw a bit of that yesterday, even though a chunk of them were asked to bow and go. But, on the low side, if at all, what was it like for you on Monday?
Thank you very much. I think the point is, I see too much of emphasis on certification. Certificate knowledge. We dwell so much on certificate in this part of the world. In other climes, people's cognate experience, may count for them. It's not everybody who attends the four walls of the university that has the requisite knowledge to preside over a ministry and all of that. There are people who grew through the ranks of their different career progression acquired experiences that can make them fit into a system. Just like Bill Gates, they said he was a dropout. If you're a dropout in Nigeria and you attempt to go for public office here, you almost be crucified. But the man was a dropout and he became a computer giant to date. And so the point I'm making is that people should dwell more on the experiences of these, nominees, rather than dwelling so much on certification. And so the essence of the screening is to bring out, the quality of the individuals, and to see how much they fit into the Renew Hope agenda of the president, because only the president knows where he's taking the people. The people do not take the president somewhere. That's why he was elected to be president of the country, because we have already put him as the common denominator of our yearnings, our aspirations, and our aggregate interests, by and large. So I saw the professor that was challenged over the fact that he spent 3 years in the secondary school or primary school now, and that was quite a comic relief for me. I don't expect a professor to have this kind of discrepancies. You must, check your documentation properly before you go for a screening. And if it was a typographical error, that has to be unpardonable. But of course, because he's a professor, nobody is challenging his quality. Nobody is also challenging his educational attainment, kind of. But by and large, since these persons have gone through security screening before their names were presented to the National Assembly, it goes to suggest that perhaps they have seen through them and see them worthy, to be appointed to man different portfolios. But there is a growing desire, kind of, that when persons are going to be appointed as a minister, people should know their portfolios. But because that way, we will be able to interrogate them based on their knowledge of the subject area in terms of competence in the particular portfolio being assigned to them. I'm sure in subsequent appointments, the president will do that so that the Senate or Nigerians can interrogate them based on their knowledge of the ministry they have been assigned. And we'll now be looking forward to the quality of what they are going to deliver to Nigerians. I'm quite excited that there wasn't too much delay yesterday. Today, I expect that the Senate should complete the remaining ones out of the 28 initially sent to them, so that by tomorrow, they return the list to the president, and by Thursday, they should be assigned portfolios. We need to kickstart the governance process. Nigerians, are yearning to see the Tinubu magic. They are yearning to see the Tinubu strategy and all of that. Look at the speech he gave yesterday. He has given, vent to a lot of issues agitating our minds. He has thrown up a lot of discussions, and that has also undercuts the NLC that are planning for strike tomorrow, because if they are going on strike, that will be political. I don't see that one as going to be nationalistic. The president has given us a lot of food for thought. We need to interrogate what he has said, injecting 125 billion here, injecting 75 billion there, pumping 225,000 metric tons of fertilizer to wheat growers and all of that, giving out 50 billion to drive one sector or the other, MSME, enterprises and all of that. You see, these are all lofty ideas. And so the moment we are able to jumpstart all of these initiatives, with ministers in place, they will be able to drive them to fruition so that Nigerians can begin to smile once again. He realizes that the subsidy removal has thrown up its own challenges. He realizes that, he knows that, and he says he's feeling our pain. That is the beauty of a conversational president, of a conversational leadership, of an interactive leadership who understands the pains of the people and who can also speak to those pains and take decisions that will have overreaching impact, on the well-being of the people.
All right, recall some time ago that there was the much talked about or much celebrated Oronsaye report that recommended the merging of some MDAs, separation of others, reorganization and all of that. But basically it was geared towards cutting down on some of the areas that he felt that, in his opinion, some government agencies, their works, their assignments overlapped and even sometimes run at cross purposes, cost duplication and so on. The chief of staff to the president now, Femi Gbajabiamila, on the day he was submitting the list to the National Assembly, gave a hint that there were going to be some reorganization of some ministries. If you sit down and you look at that, I wonder what is coming to your mind and what you expect.
It's okay. I have seen some unconfirmed reports about trying to rejig the ministries and even expand some in some areas and all of that. I think the challenges in Nigeria have become very humongous. And so the chances are that some ministers presiding over a particular ministry that is too big, maybe perhaps unwilling for one person to preside, may also not all go well. So the president may have his own thinking with respect to trying to dissect, and bifurcate some of these ministries, and bring in persons with different ideas to man them. And I understand that people are saying we have to cut the cost of governance, we have to cut the cost of governance. In a presidential system of government, it's almost impossible for you to cut, the size of government and all of that. What you can do is to check leakages and plug loopholes so that the incidences of corruption will be minimized, and you have to have bottlenecks that will make it difficult for the average public servant or appointee, not to have access to easy money. And so the president may expand the scope of the ministries, he may create more ministries and all that. Nigeria is a big country, no doubt about that. And the more you expand the scope, the better. But some other persons will say, no, why are you expanding the scope? It's like creating jobs for the boys. But I say, no. There are quite a number of issues. There are developmental challenges, there are existential threats to the sovereignty of Nigeria and all of that. So if you are able to expand the scope to accommodate more people, there will be a buy-in into some of this, subject area. And so for me, I think the president means well for the country. That has to be established. The president understands the country. That also has to be known. The president also is very strategic in his thinking and his approach thus far. And because we know his antecedents, we know that he said, don't pity me, don't sympathize with me. I asked for this job. That's the way to go, because he knows that there are challenges that will confront him. And we have to allow him, give him the benefit of the doubt that, yes, these challenges are there, that the president has what it takes, to nip, the challenges in the bud. And in so doing, if he feels that expanding the scope will all go well for him, we'll allow him the benefit of the doubt. But essentially, what Nigerians want to see, they want to see good governance. They want to see quality roads. They want to see welfare packages. They want to see increase in wages and salaries. They also want to see good life, healthcare services, education, and all that. The president has provided student loans facility. The healthcare sector is going to be looked into. These are part of the things he captured yesterday in his speech. And so the persons who will be coming as ministers must key into that, renew hope agenda of the president, because hope, as I often said, is the only thing that keeps the country going and the people going. The moment you get into a hopeless situation, it will become anarchy and chaos. And so I want to commend the president that so far so good. He must sustain this momentum and ensure that we are able to hit the ground running once this cabinet is formed and begin to see the kind of things we want to see on the Nigerian political space.
You've spoken about the need for this process to be indeed done and dusted, as thoroughly as possible, but within the shortest time frame, so that, we can move on and Nigerians can now start to see what these people have to offer the presidency and indeed the country. But what do you make of this lineup of personalities so far? A lot has been said about the presence of former governors. There is a Professor Pate there who was a former minister. There are several people with varying credentials. But on the issue of the former governors now, what's your take? What value do you reckon they bring to the administration?
Nigerians, they have experience. We want to benefit from their experience. We want to see them, key into the Renew Hope agenda, and we want to be sure that they'll fit into what the president wants to do. Because head or tail, you need people to preside over the ministries. And as a former governor, it's an added advantage.
All right, really good to know. One other thing Nigerians have, asked questions around is the issue of having members of the opposition party in the APC. Of course, if you look back in history, this is not the first time necessarily, but the point there is, right now, some people are asking questions. Former governor of River State, Nyesom Wike, is there of the PDP, and then we also have Adebayo Adelabu of the Accord Party from Oyo State, who is also one of the nominees. I wonder what you make of this when, of course, the president had talked about the issue of coming up with the government of national competence, also the issue of unity and balance here and there. I wonder what you make of this. But before you answer that, let's just go on a break and then we come back. Sorry for that. Right, you're watching TVC Breakfast. On this segment, we have a media consultant and a member of the APC, a political analyst, Kassim Afegbua, joining us from our Abuja studio. We've been talking about the ministerial nominees, and since yesterday, the Senate began this process, and today we expect that they will complete that and the president will do the needful. So he's been helping us make sense of all of this. Kassim, it's good to have you stay with us. Now, the question I was asking earlier before we went on the break was the issue of the president seemed to be coming up with a government or a cabinet of national unity, as the case may be, because we have members of the opposition who are members of his cabinet as he has nominated them. We have Nyesom Wike, who is a member of the PDP from River State. We also have Adebayo Adelabu, a member of the Accord Party from Oyo State. Already, there are ripples in PDP, for instance, from some of the reports we're reading, that they'll wait to see if Nyesom Wike will present himself to accept the nomination, and then they will take action as to whatever they want to do. What do you make of all of this, though?
Thank you very much. I think the point must be made that the president is no longer the president of the APC. He is the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And by so doing, he has the ability, capacity, and the creativity to look for persons, men and women, who can drive his vision and agenda for the country. So taking people from the opposition party is just like fulfilling a given. And he said it from day one that it's not going to be government of national unity, but government of national competence. The persons he has chosen from these opposition parties are persons who, in his own belief, have the capacity, and the wherewithal in terms of knowledge and ability to preside over certain ministries and deliver governance to the people. Take Nyesom Wike, for example. Everybody would testify that Nyesom Wike did so well in River State. That is not to be taken away from him. And so for a man who has done so well in Rivers, if the president feels that he has something he can do for the nation in the larger scale, having been a minister before, then there's nothing wrong in bringing him on board. I think we should not detain ourselves into this zero-sum game of seeing democracy and outcome of elections as winner takes all. Oh, because it is APC, it has to all be APC. No. The president can expand his frontiers and reach out to other persons, other segments of the population, other political parties that have ideas, to contribute to the sum total of his own Renew Hope agenda, and appoint such persons to man those, specific positions. It's a welcome development. I'm excited by that, because I keep saying that people must reach out. The president must think outside the box in getting people who will deliver the goods for him. And so Nyesom Wike and Adelabu, for example, are brilliant minds who can make an impact, in the life and times of this government in the next 4 years.
Right, but still on this subject of the president's lineup of would-be ministers, some have said for president, the personality of Bola Tinubu, who had said he was set to hit the ground running. People have looked at, these persons that are now being screened by the Senate. The issue of technocrats, whether these politicians are also technocrats, and, how he was able to surmount the pressure, so to speak, while selecting these names and presenting them forward. You are, an APC stalwart, so to speak, and you know about these pressures. Some have said, okay, is it like a payback? Is this the best that the president, has to offer among, all the options that were before him and the input of governors and other stakeholders? But, what do you think about, the president's preliminary list, even though we know that, a few more are still pending?
Well, I think the president has made a good judgment in the character, quality, and content of those he has nominated as ministers. We also have to give him that credit that he's been able to interact with them. He has met them. He knows he can speak to their ability. You see, the point is the kind of pressure that will come to bear on the appointee authority, in this case the president, after elections are humongous. And so that kind of pressure may not necessarily, allow the president the kind of pace that he wants to bring in, hit the ground running. But I know that from the very first day, delivering that speech and removing subsidy and all of that, he was already confronted with huge leadership challenge and all of that. So essentially, these persons, I can speak to their quality. When you talk about technocrats, I don't always know what people mean by technocrat. Political parties parade persons who are also professionals in their own field, persons who are also having forwarding address, without necessarily be detained in the murky waters of politics or politicians. Politicians are not persons who don't have ideas, who don't have brain at all. It's not so. People often make me say, bring technocrats. If you don't even understand the operative environment and the political intricacies of a particular work environment, you may not likely succeed. So you need a blend of technical knowledge, cognitive experience, and political experience, so that you'll be able to blend all of these together and chart a roadmap that will help you to deliver on your terms of reference. So this person that I've seen yesterday and the other names that will be screened today, if I'm even screening them or taking them through this route, for me, once the president has certified them to be okay, I think that's enough. Then we need persons to be in place so that we can commence the process of governance more deeply, and so that Nigerians can begin to feel the impact of this government.
Okay. All right. A good place to leave it now. Thank you so much, Kassim Afegbua, media consultant and a member of APC. Thank you for your insight into the discussions today. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.